Welcome back to the Joust About Careers podcast. This is the place to learn about careers from the people who are actually doing the work every day. I'm your host, Brian Bratt, and this week's guest is 2019 Van Buren graduate Johnathon Farthing, a general manager and franchise trainer at Five Guys. In this episode, Johnathon shares how he decided to leave college to pursue full-time employment with Five Guys, how teachers don't only work in schools, the most fulfilling aspects of his career, and much more. Whether you are interested in a career in the restaurant industry or are still exploring your options, I hope that what Johnathon shares today will help all of you make better career decisions and have fulfilling career journeys. Enjoy the show. Johnathon Farthing, thank you very much for joining us here today, and I'm looking forward to hearing your story. So to get us started, I'd like to know, how does a typical day look for a general manager in the Five Guys franchise?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, usually my days start pretty early and go pretty late. So first in, last out. So depending, today's a Monday. It's also our payroll day. We receive truck orders. So I get here about 6 a.m. and I'll leave about 4 or 5 p.m. That's usually what my Mondays or every other Mondays will look like. So for example, today, got here at 6 a.m., unlocked the doors, turned everything on, opened the door for our delivery driver, and I started putting our product away. So anything that's cold needs to go in the cooler. Anything that's dry stock needs thrown up on the shelves. As soon as that's done, I get on my phone and I start taking inventory. So I'm counting how many patties do I have, how many slices of cheese. It can be tedious, but as a business, we need to know what products we have where and making sure we're sending them to the right places. After that, being that it is Monday, I jump on the computer, start reconciling the hours, making sure everyone clocked in and they're getting paid properly, including myself. And then I send that through to get reviewed through upper management. I'm also going to go through and take all the cash, make sure everything that we earned in cash money is counted for, and I'll get that to the bank and make sure that's taken care of as well. And then simultaneously, I'm setting up the store around me, so making sure my grills are hot, my fryers are cooking, everything's ready to go for my team when they show up in the morning. That's generally how the morning will go. Once I'm finished with that, then I'll move on to helping prep. So we'll cut our potatoes, cut our green peppers, jalapenos, everything's fresh at Five Guys every day. So we're going to have to work on that. Once I'm finished with all that, hopefully by the time it's around 10:30, we should be taking a break, getting ready to open. We make a game plan for the day, and then we jump in the kitchen. About 11 to 4 o'clock is when I'll actually be on the line running the show. Sometimes being our store's a little bit slower here in Findlay. Other locations, the GM might be a little more in the background. Here we're a little bit slower, so I have the opportunity to get things done and still participate with the kitchen crew. So for example, today I'll jump in the kitchen once it's about 11 o'clock, and 11 to 4, I'll be cooking fries, making patties, talking to customers, that sort of thing. Once it's about 3:30, I'll make sure everything's taken care of and set up for the night. I'll head home, and that's my day. That's pretty much what that looks like.
Sounds like you sit around a lot.
Right, lots is it.
So you talked to me a little bit about, you are currently in the process of helping set up another store. How much do
Yes,
you do
absolutely.
that, and what does that look like compared to what you normally do, and how do you fit that into what you normally do at your own store?
Right. Well, we're in a special set of circumstances right now. So every 10 years, a Five Guys store is required to go through what we call a refresh. And a refresh is when stuff gets old, right? So every 10 years, they want to replace everything. Costs around $500,000. They shut the store down. We buy brand new grills, brand new fryers, brand new everything, all the way down from the spoons and spatulas we use, new computer monitors, new Coke machines, everything. It's pricey, but it keeps everything at top notch, working well. If you're familiar with at least this location, I believe we opened in 2011. So from 2011 to 2000, would have been 23, we didn't have milkshakes. And then in 2023, 24, we actually introduced those. So we had to build that. So with that being said, what does that look like for us, or me specifically? We did a refresh here in the Findlay location. They saw at least how I performed as a trainer and as the lead trainer for the new crew. And they had me help out at their Lima location, which also went through a refresh. I also helped out at their Rossford location. And now we're doing a brand new store opening in Sylvania. As I told you, it should be opening today, first day. So they're
Oh,
very
wow.
excited about that. And so the past weekend, I was up there training a brand new crew. Um, so how do I fit that in? Luckily, like I said, we're in an interesting set of circumstances. I'm getting a promotion and moving on within our franchise, not necessarily Five Guys specifically. Luckily, the owner that owns our franchise owns multiple businesses, and I can get into that later if you'd like. But I am currently training our GM up to take over, so my assistant right now. And that gives me a little more time while she's running things here. I can step away and help at the other stores. So that's why I've had the opportunity to go up north, and we make it work.
Right.
So that's where we're at.
When you look back at yourself in high school, what were your career plans when you were a senior and preparing to take those next steps?
Right. I always find it funny because when I'm interviewing people, I ask the same question. And usually they are currently seniors in high schools. They're currently at a point. So I like to know where their head's at. Are you just getting this job to make some cash, or is this something you're going to work full time? It's a good question. As a senior in high school, as you probably remember, I had different plans. At first, it was medical field, then it was education, then it was music education. That's sort of where I ended at, was music education. I always found that teaching, training, working with people was my thing, but I didn't ever take a moment to realize the theme within all my career choices, because I'm sort of there while I'm here, actually.
Right.
But originally it was the medical field because I wanted to work with people. Then it was, I believe I was looking into Chinese education because I wanted to work with people again, but I also wanted to teach. And then it ended up being music education because that was a passion of mine and I could teach again. And then I went through college and the stars aligned. I ended up here and now I'm training and teaching people how to do what I do now. So,
So you started at Five Guys in 2019. Um,
yes.
and so you were working there while you were in college?
Yes. So as soon as I graduated, a couple of my fellow classmates worked here and they said I should get a job. And I was like, nah, I don't want to. And I just, on a whim one day, I was eating a burger and they asked me if I wanted a job. I'm like, okay, sure, might as well. And I hadn't left.
And you were talking there about going to college, and I didn't see that on your LinkedIn profile. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that role that played in where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started college shortly after I started my job here in 2019. Would have been the summer, I believe, August. And first semester was great. I started and I went straight for music education, music department, and something just didn't feel right. All of a sudden, my passion for music felt like a job. It felt like I had to get up and practice the piano. I had to get up and do vocal exercises, and music wasn't fun anymore. And I realized maybe I was confusing a passion with a career and it just didn't feel fun. And it kind of took the love for music I had out of it. But I knew I still wanted to teach and I knew I was passionate about other things. So I thought, well, I love learning Chinese. I took Chinese classes in college. Maybe I learn a little bit about Chinese education, which BGSU had offered. So I was excited to do that, which actually I was the only student at the entire university working for that,
Wow.
which was really funny. It wasn't very common, but I did that for a while and I enjoyed it a lot. COVID hit on my third or fourth semester of college. So I finished off my third semester. It would have been my third. And I started working again because COVID hit. All the classes were online. And I'm very in person. I want to talk to people. I want to hear people. And I struggled. I struggled a lot. It was hard to get up and open up my computer screen and okay, I got to do assignments. I wasn't very responsible with my time. If I was at home, I could stay in bed longer. There's no professor that's going to not see me. They notice? So I was irresponsible. And at that time, I started picking up more shifts at Five Guys. So I had classes Monday through Friday, and I worked Saturday, Sunday at Five Guys in Finland. And I did live on campus as well. So that worked out for me, kept an income. They started asking if I'd like to pick up some more hours because while COVID was happening, our store was actually succeeding fairly well nationally. A lot of the corporate stores were calling us and asking us, how are we keeping our doors open? So they needed more help here at Finley. And I started picking up more shifts and decided I'm not going to sign up for a fourth semester. Let's just take a breather. I needed time in my life to kind of figure out what was going on. And from that point on, my career at Five Guys kind of exploded.
What advice would you give to someone who is maybe in that same situation as yours? Maybe would face criticism. Did you face criticism for not continuing on your degree path? Do you have any regrets on that, or has everything worked out just the way you would have wanted?
Right. I was talking to my wife about this yesterday. I said, I'm going on this podcast and I'm so excited. I knew you were going to ask me that. And I had thought about it a lot. And I've been thinking about this ever since. It was very hard to do because I realized that I didn't go to college because I knew what I wanted to do. And it was the choice that I wanted to do. It was sort of what was expected of me. And I hadn't actually sat down and considered what could my future look like. Am I interested in a trade? Am I interested in education? I didn't, like I mentioned earlier, look at sort of the patterns of my career choices. At the end of the day, was helping people, training people, working with people. Last thing I would have thought was, well, how about a fast food restaurant? Because that's not such a glamorous job when you think of it. And my advice would be, don't constrict yourself to what other people expect of you. I don't know if there's a better way to say that, but I definitely did things that people expected of me. And in the moment, it felt great to fulfill the desires of other people. It's positive attention. I'm like, I must be doing something right. But then when I took the steps and actually moved forward in those processes, I just wasn't getting it. I wasn't interested. It just wasn't fitting me. So I will say I'm lucky that this worked out because it was the only decision that I had made on my own. And that worked for me. So I guess that's my advice. Really be critical. Is that something you want to do, or is it something that you're sort of being pressured to do or expected to do? That was something I learned a little late. As far as regrets, I did. Right away, I felt regretful. I didn't tell anyone right away. I was embarrassed. But very shortly after, I had met my wife on my last semester, and I owe that to her, kind of self-confidence. And I told my family, and I was expecting everyone to be disappointed, and they were, hey guys, I've decided I'm not going to continue with my education. I'm going to focus on my career at Five Guys. And it was met with, that's great, we're happy for you. In fact, they were happier that I had finally made a decision on my own and not followed sort of the expected path. So, take that risk, be confident in yourself. It really matters what you want. And
Right.
I kind of learned that a little late.
Right. Well, and I think a lot of it goes back to who you are as a person, and like you said, that social aspect. You know, it'd be interesting to know how your career would have turned out, or career path would have turned out, if COVID hadn't happened. If you had been
Right.
able to stay at school in person, and so again, those things that happen in life that lead to changes in direction, but those end up being good things in the end.
Exactly.
So, so at Five Guys, you started as a crew member, went to a shift manager, went to an assistant manager. You've been a general manager since November of 21. And now, again, it sounds like you're climbing to the next step. So, what do you attribute that rise throughout Five Guys to? What are you doing that has made those opportunities available to you?
Yeah, absolutely. At Five Guys, and I can speak for Five Guys. It's going to be difficult for me to speak for other careers. Maybe I can speak of similar careers, but Five Guys, as you probably noticed, is my only experience. So I can speak on that. At least at this restaurant and other restaurants that I've heard of and learned from different employees that I've hired, it takes a lot of self-criticism and being able to take criticism, right? We have to, Five Guys, we don't have timers. We don't drop your fries and push start and wait and then pull it up. It's not automatic. We do a lot of things by using our five senses. So little do a lot of customers know, before customers get in, we will make fries for the day. We will make burgers for the day. We will all sit down together, taste them, feel them, smell them, use all of our senses and decide that's what the quality food will look like for the day. And being able to have a manager or a superior come up and say, hey, the quality you produced, it's not what we want. So being able to take criticism, grow from that, be mature, I would attribute at least most of the growth to just being open, being honest, and not taking things to heart. You know, we just make burgers and fries here. So if you can't take simple criticism like that, it's sort of a restaurant thing. Um, but that's what I would say. Just coming in on time, smiling, doing the best I can, and being willing to take that criticism. It's really not that tough. I always tell new hires when they're asking, what does a day look like? Would you compare this to any other job? I'm like, just burgers and fries. It's all we do. It's very simple. And obviously, being a people person helps. We're in a restaurant, so customers, I love it. I love training. I love working with people. So maybe that's what they saw in me. I don't know, but it
Right,
worked out.
right, right. What do you feel like? You said a few times there, just burgers and fries. But again, they're really good. The quality's good. They taste good. I love eating them.
Right.
The idea of fast food, though, like you said, a lot of times people look at that and say, "Well, that's fast food." What are those people missing? What are the opportunities that are there that people maybe don't have a chance to explore because they say, "Oh, it's just fast food."
Right. That's a really good question. I don't think that I've ever outright thought of it before, but I would say something that's super important is, and I know I mentioned taking criticism, but being really self-reflective. How can I do better? What can I do better to better the business? What can I do when I'm receiving criticism? It really, really helps mature a person. I will say I came in here straight out of high school. So while I was a little more mature for my age, I was still a high schooler that just graduated. And I grew up rather quickly. Um, it helps, you know, someone, the real world's tough.
Right.
And it's not your best friend. Everyone's not going to hold your hand. It's just a business. So being able to mature, I'd say a restaurant helps teach you how to handle stressful situations very, very well. It gets very busy. The expectation of the business of your performance is very high. So that helps that sort of process. One thing that we as county schools have available to us, I know at least Van Buren and local schools is Millstream, and they have a culinary program. They do, I've heard great things about it. They do really well. And students learn a lot of culinary tricks and trades and everything under the sun. But something you can't learn until you're there is how to handle under pressure. How well do you do when there's customers standing in line, when there's managers asking for things to be done, and the clock is ticking, and you've got burgers sizzling, and you've got fries blanching. So how to handle yourself under pressure is something that really, really benefits me. So now, in very stressful situations of day-to-day life, like a stressful doctor's appointment, or you're meeting first time I met my fiance's family, or at the time my fiance's family, and things like that, I feel like my ability to cope with stress has improved greatly because
Right.
of it.
Right. Right. What would you say has been most rewarding for you in this career?
Right. Being that I do love training and working with people, my favorite thing is promoting people, pulling them aside, talking about their performance, giving them reviews and telling them there's more for them. I'd like to see we're getting your promotion, you're getting more pay, you're getting a new title, giving them those responsibilities. I love to see people grow. And maybe it's a selfish thing, but I can look back and say, see that collar you're wearing, your manager, because we work together, because I got you there. It feels good to help people. Maybe it's a selfish thing, but luckily we both benefit from it. So,
Right.
but I
Right.
love to see that.
Where do you see yourself going in the future? I often talk to students about, hey, if you don't go to college straight out of high school, that doesn't mean you will never go to college. And, like who's to say? Maybe somewhere down the road, you'll go back and
Exactly.
get a degree or change direction or whatever it might be. Is this something where I think back to you in high school. I could see Jonathon Farthing running Five Guys someday, or
Yeah,
I feel
right.
like you're that kind of person. Do you have any career goals that you're still working toward? Obviously, you've only been out of school for 6 years, so it seems like a long time. But when you look at it that way, it really hasn't been that long.
Yeah, when you step back, it's like, oh, it's only been 6 years. I was just there the other day. Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, when I started, my goal was just to keep some cash in my pocket, and then I slowly attained goals farther from that. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm kind of moving on from Five Guys. Our franchise owner owns multiple different businesses. Another business he has recently invested in and started opening locations is a new chicken franchise. It's called Houston's Hot Texas Chicken. We just call it HHC. And he's looking to expand that business into Ohio. And with that being said, he's going to need trainers, district managers, GM trainers, stuff like that. So that's what I'm working towards. I would rather stick with Five Guys, but we have a smaller franchise and the training opportunity is not quite there. But as far as other opportunities there, I'm going to still get to train. I will get to help run a business like that. And the great news about that, I get to keep my foot in the door with Five Guys because he owns this place as well. So as far as goals, aspirations, keep climbing the chain. I want to be with people. I want to train. And luckily for me, an opportunity that's opening up is a district trainer, sort of training people to be GMs. So that's something I'm doing now with the Findlay location, is training my current assistant to take over after me. So kind of prove myself there and see what I have going for me in the future.
Right. Well, and I love too the idea that, again, teaching doesn't have to be in a school. It can happen in so many other places. And I think that's something I even don't think about at times. But yeah, in the corporate world, in fast food, in everywhere, there are people who have to teach others how to do certain things. And obviously you found that, and that's still a joy of yours. And I think that's awesome. So as we wrap up and you think back to yourself in high school, what do you know now about careers that you wish you had known when you were in high school?
Right. I guess go back exactly what you said. A teacher doesn't have to be in a school, in the confines of the four walls of an educational building. You can still help people. It doesn't necessarily have to be a doctor or a teacher or a firefighter. I'm still helping people grow. I hire adults that need to make incomes to feed their families. I help promote people that succeed to make more money for their lives. I'm still helping people like I wanted to. I'm still training people like I wanted to. So when people look into careers, I just recommend don't look at the surface level. Really think about the options. I never, ever, if you would have told me in high school that I was going to work in the food industry, I would have laughed, because I would have been disappointed. Like, great, now I'm never going to get to teach people, help people. And I would have been very wrong, because it's not just the surface level. Teachers teach, doctors help. There's a lot more out there. So
yeah. Well, Jonathon, I really appreciate it. It is awesome to see you doing well in your career and moving up again. And I'm glad you have found that career that you really enjoy. And thank you for sharing your story, and good luck as you continue on your career journey.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
If you liked this Joust About Careers episode, you can explore previous episodes and highlights to learn about even more careers of Van Buren graduates. To be sure you don't miss upcoming episodes, please click subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform so you'll know when the next episode is released. Thank you for spending a portion of your day with us, and we hope you will continue to prepare for your future by learning just about careers.